Hello all, it is time for my 2 cents in Despia once again, because, I haven't made a deck profile in 2 weeks, so, got the longing to do it again. I said I'd change my mind a million times on this deck, so here is 1,000,001. Let's just hop right into it, because you've probably seen most of these other profiles by now, because, surprise, surprise, this deck is now pretty much the best deck in the format, so let's jump right in with my unfiltered dogshit opinion on this deck. First and foremost, 3 Aliber. This is pure. We don't play any Brave or Therian shenanigan in this. It's bad. Don't do it. You brick on it. I tried it. I hate it. It doesn't work. Just save yourself the trouble and don't do it. 3 Aliber. 3 Tragedy. You do that because, spoiler alert, this is more of an Allure build. We're playing Allure. You can trigger this off of Allure. Discarding this for branded opening is hilarious. There's just a bunch you can do with multiple Tragedy. Especially, like setting Branded Fusion again from your graves. It's just, the threat of doing that is just hilarious. This card is insane. 1 Ad Libitum is mandatory to be able to bring back a lot of your stuff, mainly your Mirror Jade. But this does, remember, because it comes up sometimes, remember that this card has a second effect. It can boost attack with monsters levels on the field. So you put a bunch of monsters on the field and you can boost up your board. That can help if you've got, a rogue Adagnister player at your local and you can't get over the arrival. Stuff like that can come up if you need to be able to clear boards for that. So remember that Ad Libitum has a second effect. 2 Albaz. I was playing 3. 1 is just not correct anymore. I understand why people were playing 1. You don't want to brick on it. You can shuffle it back in. But if it gets stopped, then you're screwed because you have no way to put Albaz back into your deck. So 2 is the minimum. 3 is actually also correct. It's really just on your personal preference / if you just need to make space for stuff, which I was doing. I want to play 3, but I just had to cut it for other stuff. I mean, this deck I'm playing right now is already 44 cards, which you can get away with because it's consistent enough, and with cards like Allure and just most of your engine being able to get into itself. But I just still had to make the space. I mean, 44 is still not pretty, but you can get away with it in this deck. 3 Albaz works because really and truly the only card that hurts you the most is Ash Blossom. And because of cards like Branded Lost, you have so many ways to be able to get to Branded Fusion and Branded Lost. So if your Branded Fusion gets ashed and you hard opened an Albaz and another way to fuse, like the Frightfur engine, or if you're playing Theater, you can just hard make the Libellion on your own, and then you still are able to build a board. Plus, just summoning Albaz and super polying the board is funny as well, if you're able to do that, especially if you're playing Ecclesia. I want to play Incredible Ecclesia so bad, but I couldn't justify the space for it as much as I want to be able to do that. But that is my 2 cents on the number of Albaz to play. Albion, the Shrouded Dragon, I am playing. I'll put it up here, actually, because more stuff coming later. I am playing one of these. 1, 2, or 3 is correct. It's really just your personal preference. I was playing 3. Then I cut it down to 2 for the local yesterday to make space for some other stuff, and now I'm cutting it down to 1 just to make more space. This card by itself is still really good. I mean, you dump a branded spell to the grave, usually branded sword, unless you got unlucky and drew it. And then it's an upstart goblin. It can summon itself to be material. In grave or on field, it counts as Albaz, so you can do funny fusion shenanigans with that if you are unable to get to an Albaz in another way. But just for space, 1 is really all you need. 2 or 3 can also work, like I said, but it's really just up to your own preference. Mercurier, I've seen people play multiple of these to be able to proc it off of Allure. That really only works if you specifically draw Mercurier Allure, which is just like, it happens, but I mean, this card does nothing on its own, so I just think playing it as a 1-of is good enough. This is your main search target off of Branded Lost. But you do also play the Spriggan's Kit. This is your other search target for Branded Lost if you're able to get into that. This card is just great. It helps you get into another one of your branded spells and traps. You do have to put a card to the bottom of your deck, which sucks because like this deck already has to discard a bunch for some of its combos, but it's worth it sometimes. It can help you. It can help you put Garnets back in your deck. For example, if you draw the branded sword, then you can put that back in your deck to be able to Albion later on. I actually had a scenario come up yesterday at the local where I had to use Kit as my normal summon to be able to get into the Branded Fusion, but I also had Mercurier in hand as well as Branded Lost. So I normal summon Kit, I search the Branded Fusion, and I put Mercurier back to the bottom of the deck, and then I activate Branded Lost, activate Branded Fusion, and I just searched Mercurier again, and I was able to build the rest of my board. So funny scenarios like that can come in. Kit is just a really good extender, just as a one-of, though you don't need more than one, because having to put a card to the bottom of the deck just is usually not the greatest. You can deal with it, but you don't want to be doing that multiple times. One Snow, it's Snow. This is probably the best light target you can ever have if you have to go into the Albion Fusion instead of Lebellion first. It just shuts down so many boards. You've heard my opinion on this card. This card needs to be banned again just because it's stupid. It's not once per turn. It's practically free, and it's just dumb. And then the last couple monsters I am playing 3 Edgem Chain for the Frightfur engine. You can do only 2 with this if you want, but I'll get into that more as I discuss the Frightfur engine as a whole when I get to the spells and Frightfur patchwork. But that's really, long story short, it's really up to your own personal preference. So as soon as I clear the monsters out of the way, I will begin the spells. I probably put all those in the incorrect order, but I really don't care. Anyway, on to the spells. So we have, if I can get them out here. If you're playing this deck and you're not playing 3 Branded Fusion, I just don't be stupid, please. Just be smart, please. Branded Opening. I was talking to one of my friends earlier today, and I have not checked the price of this card for a while just because I've had this card literally since it first came out in Dawn of Majesty. This card is $20 per copy right now as a super rare. I have never heard of a super rare becoming this expensive in recent history ever. It is, that is insane to think that this super rare is $20, and that's even more hilarious to think about because I got my playset of this card for like $1 when it first came out because I didn't get lucky and pull it as it goes. This is just hilarious. I mean, I know why. This is the E-Telly, this is the Rhoda, this is the Balinx and the Arborea to protect from destruction. This card is busted. It's so good. But just thinking that this card is $20 per copy for a super is just hilarious. So that's, yeah, it sucks that it's $20 if you're still trying to build this deck, but like you have to get it to be able to play this. I'm sorry, but 3 is mandatory. 2 branded in red. 2 or 3 is correct. I was playing 3, but I had to cut one of them to make space for stuff. As much as I didn't want to, it's just, it's really just up to personal preference of how you want to build the deck / if you need to make space for stuff, because like either or works. But I just had to cut one of them for space, unfortunately. The one branded Lost. This card is ridiculous. It's searchable. It's Meltdown. It says the only thing that hurts you is Ash. There's a bunch of BS shenanigans that you could do with Mirror Jade, with this, and with other fusions. It's insane. Just play it. And the one Theater. I've considered cutting this, but like the amount of scenarios I think of where this card comes up is it's just too good not to play. Basically, it's a searchable fusion spell which can help you extend further, especially on like turn 3 and 4 and further into the grind game. The shenanigans where like if a non-fusion fairy dies, you can revive a fusion. There's a bunch of scenarios where that can come up and be handy. It's just it just became too good not to, basically, especially since it's searchable. The Frightfur engine, 3 patchwork. This one, I guess, is also up to personal preference. Poly is not, though. Play 2 of this. 1's not enough. 3 is just too many. Just don't be dumb. Play 2 of that. But the Frightfur engine as a whole, if you need to make space for other stuff or you just want to cut down on cards in general, you can play 2 patchwork, 2 poly, 2 edge imp. I play 3 edge imp, 3 patchwork just so I can get into the engine more consistently, and then if I need space for things like side deck cards, I can side out one of each. So that's where side decking comes in. But otherwise, as a whole, it's really just up to your personal preference whatever you want to do. But that's just what I'm doing, just because getting to this engine is just busted. It's a patchwork is a free +1, and then you just get a free poly to be able to fuse more things off, and free materials for it. It's insane, and it helps you chain block with the edge imps. It's free real estate basically. Super Poly is a 3 of in this deck. Super Poly is busted this format, particularly for the mirror. It's just play 3 of this card, please. 3 Allure, we do this because, you know, draw deeper into the deck. The card's ridiculous. You can trigger stuff like Mercurier and Tragedy. You can get rid of duplicate copies to be able to draw deeper into your deck. It's Allure. I am playing Droplet. This is one of the cards I had to make space for. I was cutting stuff like the other Albion main decks, the extra Albaz, cutting Branded Red from 3 to 2. I did this because there's just a bunch of boards that other decks can make that are just much easier to break if you have this card to be able to do that. You know, breaking a Sword Soul board, or even in a mirror, you can turn off a lot of their interaction, even though Branded Red will still be in your future. But anyway, it just makes it easier. For rogue matchups, we have a couple Flunder players at my locals, and Barrier Statue is annoying to get over because, like, cool, normal summon something to beat over it. It's Flunder. They love it when you normal summon. Plus, you know, Dreaming Town is a card. So I had to put that in there just to be able to help out with some other matchups, and it just makes breaking other boards a lot easier if you're able to use it. 1 Call By, because Call By is busted. And 1 Cosmic in the main. I want to cut this card so bad to cut down on space, but a bunch of wise guys at my local think that Mystic Mine is a funny card to drop on people, and I refuse to be sacked by that bullshit card that should be banned any longer. So I have dedicated the main deck space to that 1 card, and I am citing some more back row hate. I am playing 2 traps in the main. Branded Sword is mandatory pretty much at this point. You don't have to, but it just helps you extend so much further. You banish Mercurier off of something else to be able to search Albion or Kit or whatever else you need, and then you just banish Branded Sword to add Mercurier back to your hand so you have additional disruption. And this card, Branded Banishment, is hilarious. Essentially what this is the new trap card out of Dimension Force. It's basically a searchable Super Poly / Revive. For those of you that don't know what this is, target a Despia monster or a level 8 or higher fusion monster in your graveyard. No restrictions on that, by the way. It simply has to be a level 8 or higher fusion monster, so the world is your oyster with that. Special summon it. Then you can apply the following effects. So you don't even have to fuse after that. It can just be a reborn. But then, fusion summon a level 8 or higher fusion monster from your extra deck, which is majority of what you're doing, by banishing the fusion materials from either field. This is a searchable Super Poly because it is a branded card, and it is hilarious. It's just too good. I had this come up, I think, only once or twice yesterday, but when it did, I mean, this card is just such a blowout / really good extender. I mean, revive Mirror Jade with this. Revive something that can't beat over, and then Super Poly their board away to be able to fuse into your other stuff. This can, like, this almost single-handedly breaks Sword Soul boards if you're able to do that, because you revive a Despia, and then you use a Despia, a Light, and a Dark to go into Proskinian, get rid of their Baron, and then Proskinian revive their Baron, so you get the Baron negate and a pop on your turn if they don't get rid of it. This card it's just so good. Like, I wanna play more of it, but you just can't justify the space for that. It's as funny as that would be, but the card is just so good. I love it. And that is the main deck. Like I said, 44 cards. So not really the prettiest, but I mean, just so much of your deck searches into itself, and it's just you're able to keep going really easy with this deck. You do have a few dead hands because you just draw a bunch of stuff that doesn't do anything on its own, but overall the deck is just really consistent. And then cards like Allure help out as well, so you can get away with more than 40 cards. I wouldn't push it too much. Like, I'm kind of pushing it as it is, but you can still get away with that. Side deck. I guess I'll do that one first instead of the extra deck. 3 Ash. This is mainly for the mirror, but I mean, it can just be for generic stuff because, you know, Ash is just generically good. The one Necroworld Banshee and the one Zombie World has pretty much become standard. I've seen people play multiple Zombie World and the one Banshee, because if you hard draw a Zombie World and you still have access to Banshee, they expend the resource to out the Zombie World, and then you just plop another one down on them. That's fine, but like, your deck is usually good enough as it is, and then other side cards can just be good enough. Plus, if you're making them waste resources just to out Zombie World, you're probably putting them behind anyway, and then you have the rest of your board to be able to do it. So, like, 1-1 is fine. That works out. Probably the funniest addition to my side deck, Mind Control and Change of Heart, freshly at 1. Side tangent, I got Change of Hearted 3 times yesterday at my local in the same match, because the dude drew it every single game, and he did it to me every single game, and it was hilarious. Is Change of Heart or Mind Control good? I don't know. I mean, obviously it's a busted effect, but like, I'm just doing it because it's funny, because Konami thinks that Change of Heart is fine to come back. And I don't agree. I don't know if it's the best card to decide this, but like, Change of Heart just should not be back. So, but I mean, I'm just gonna play it just because it's legal again. I'm gonna see how I like it, but if nothing else, I'm just gonna have fun with it. So I'm doing it because it's incredibly funny. Another Cosmic and 3 Twin Twister. This is for back row hate, in addition to a red reboot. But these cards are mainly just for, you know, just chainable disruption for other matchups like Flunder, or just generically Anti-Spell is a card that's starting to go around again, and I hate that. So here we are playing that to be able to play around that. And then I was playing D-Barrier, but I decided that I want to go with Tikaboo instead. D-Barrier, I get why you don't want to play this, why you want to play that in this deck, because it shuts down your own fusions, but you don't really care if you're making your opponent not be able to play the game. Like, if you're in a Despia mirror and you call fusion, cool, they can't build a board. But the one thing that does do is it kills your follow-up, and that's what really makes this deck shine more than anything else, is the follow-up that you're able to get if your fusions are online as you start to disrupt them. So that's why I decided to go with Tikaboo. Tikaboo is better for just any other matchup, particularly Sword Soul. It just I kind of miss D-Barrier because it can hit synchro, so you just shut Sword Soul down for free without anything else. You can't use this in the mirror, which sucks, because you can shut down the mirror with D-Barrier, although it does kill your follow-up. But just like, I'm gonna go with Tikaboo instead, because it doesn't hurt. You don't care about this card whatsoever. But I can see why you play D-Barrier. D-Barrier is also acceptable, but just know that it kills your follow-up, which is the only downside about it. But otherwise, you just shut your opponent down, and it's hilarious. Extra deck. Most of this is going to be pretty standard at this point, but I'll just show it anyway. 2 Mirror Jade. I guarantee you 2 is going to come up. Do it. Something I've seen come up a little more, maybe a little controversial, only the 1 Lubellion. The reason I am doing that is because the main play you want to do with this is you want to go into Albion first, 2 Albion by the way, and do the line with Fairy Tale Snow to be able to set that up first. And usually by that point, you know, you've either been disrupted, or you get to keep going, and then you get to go into the Lubellion anyway, and then you just shuffle the Lubellion back. Pretty much every game I've played with this ratio has worked out. I have never needed the second Lubellion. Like, sure, if on the off chance it gets disrupted, cool, my opponent's insane. But like, I haven't missed it so far. I kind of like 1 Lubellion. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be a scenario where I get disrupted at the wrong time, just because it's generally just because I misplay and, you know, screw it up. Go figure, it's me. But I haven't missed it. I'm kind of liking the 1 Lubellion right now, and it's been working out really nicely. The new Albaz fusion, what is this? Alba Lenitus. I don't care if I mispronounce it. Long story short, this card is hilarious. Contact Fuse with your opponent's board. If you know, it's Albaz and one or more dragons, you can clear some boards with this. It makes Dragon Link a free matchup basically, or it makes them answer the Albaz. And it also makes them answer the just you setting a monster. Like if you brick and you set a monster and then you just set some back row, it makes them answer that, because if it's Albaz and you have Super Poly set, you just win for free. But this card is hilarious. Gain multiple attacks on monsters based on the number of materials. And it's also the reason you can get away with doing less Lubellion and less Albion. I was playing 3 main deck Albion to be able to send more of them, to be able to search spells and traps in the grind game, and then, you know, just more fusion material. But this, when it goes to the grave, you search out a polymerization or a fusion spell. This card literally searches you branded fusion, so like essentially accomplishes the same thing as Albion going to grave. So that's why you can cut one of the Lubellions or the Albion. 2 Guardian Chimera is standard. I promise you 2 of these will come up, especially if you get into a grind game. Quiritus has pretty much become standard at this point. You know, you just play it as a one-of. It's how you get over a lot of stuff. And then, you know, if it dies, you can tag into Albaz or one of the Despias in the deck, which can help you clear a board further. 2 Masquerade. This has pretty much become standard. I see some builds not playing it, but Masquerade is just first of all, this card is like $40, which I think is hilarious because I got this card for obviously way less than that when I was just playing Masquerade Turbo for this deck. But this card is insane. Your opponent has to pay 600 life points to activate cards or effects. It can come back for free even if it doesn't do the burn. But like, you get your opponent low enough, you drop this on them, they literally can't respond to you killing them, which is hilarious. I played Breegrand as one of the targets to be able to send off of Mirror Jade, or, you know, it's just a nice Super Poly target off of both Super Poly itself and Albaz's effect if that comes up. Plus, it has the cute little protection effect if that ever comes up, if you get this to stick on the field. I just think it's the most useful Albaz fusion that you can play in the deck. It's pretty much become standard at this point, because then you can like add or special summon Albaz or Mercurier after that, which does come up. So yeah, that's my long-winded explanation on that card. Proskinian, this is the flex spot more than anything else, because the other 2 are Dragostapelia and Starving Venom. I guess you can change this to something else if you want. This is really just another Super Poly target, but I mean, this is usually going to come up in most of your matches, especially for Super Poly. So maybe this could be a flex spot, but I don't know. Starving Venom just feels correct for Super Poly shenanigans. But Proskinian, this is the flex spot, but this card is just, especially with the release of Branded Banishment, this card is hilarious because, like, it's harder to summon, but like if there's a Despia, a Light in the Dark on the field, which is easier to do with cards like Branded Banishment, I mean, just Super Poly the board, and then quick effects, banish or summon an extra deck monster from your opponent's deck. The funniest interaction that this ever comes up with is in the Sword Soul matchup. You search Branded Banishment, you use it, revive one of your Despias, fuse away practically their entire board, and then Proskinian revive Baron from the grave. And then you get a free Omni Negate, and if they don't answer it, you get a free pop on your next turn. Plus, it has the shenanigan where, like, you know, it beats over stuff and burns for that, so that comes up in time. But this, it's just too good not to play. I understand why it was cut earlier, but, like, it just feels so correct to play this card now. So, like, I would just recommend, now would be the time to play Proskinian if you're ever going to do it, because you just have so many better ways to be able to get into it, and it's just so good. It's too good not to now. And yeah, that's basically all I have for that. My 2 cents for this once again. I'm just so happy to see Despia finally come this far. I was playing it when literally we just had the Dawn of Majesty stuff, when it was Quiritus Theater Pass, and now we're the best deck in the format. This is hilarious, and I'm loving it. But yeah, that's all I got for you. Have a great rest of the day. Thanks for tuning in.